Hey everybody, it's Rachel. Welcome back to the channel. So, is anyone else feeling a little like your nerves are fried and you are only a few days into the week? I do. And I only watched one news story yesterday. I mean, I find myself saying, seriously? What the hell constantly anymore? Okay, so I don't actually say hell, but I shouldn't drop the F-bomb in the first 30 seconds of a video. So today, I really want to talk about the idea of letting go without giving in. And before you roll your eyes and think, oh no, this is going to be one of those light a candle, settle into the lotus position and breathe kind of things, stick with me. I promise it's not. Now, I know some of this is going to sound like I am repeating myself from other videos, but I think it's worth a regular reminder because it's easy to forget ourselves and how much power we have over our own calm when we're feeling overwhelmed. We are living in this constant pounding noise, waves of headlines, waves of fear, waves of outrage and anger. If you're anything like me, sometimes it feels like trying to stay upright in a storm when all you really want to do is crawl back into bed and pretend none of it exists. But unfortunately, we can't stop the waves. We can't tell the storm to knock it off and give us some peace. But we also don't have to drown in it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Book 4 of his Meditations, "To be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved and the raging of the sea falls still around it." I keep coming back to that line because that's what it feels like we need right now, to be the rock. The rock doesn't control the sea, doesn't yell at the waves, it doesn't beg them to stop, and it doesn't build a giant barricade. It just remains, and eventually the waves break against it and move on. That's what letting go without giving in feels like. And, if the whole Marcus Aurelius thing feels a little too deep and distant for you, channel a little Bob Seger, like a rock, steady, unshaken, standing proud and tall no matter what is crashing around you. Not perfect, not flashy, just unmovable. So, what does that actually mean for us here and now? Letting go does not mean we give up. It means we choose not to let the chaos inside us, even when it's raging all around us. Let's get clear on what it actually is. Letting go isn't apathy. It's not denial. It's not, oh well, nothing I can do about it. Might as well stay home and binge Netflix forever. It's refusing to let the storm own your mind. It's setting down things that are shredding your calm and eating away at your sanity. It's saying, I can't control the wave, but I can control whether or not I get dragged under with it. And here's the flip side, giving in. Giving in looks like rage spirals. It looks like hopelessness. It looks like letting fear dictate our choices, or snapping at people who don't deserve it because we are already frayed. It looks like swallowing propaganda just because it's easier than questioning it. Giving in is dangerous because it's exactly what chaos wants us to do. To be divided, distracted, exhausted. When you give in, you are not standing. You're being carried by wherever the current wants to take you. History shows us that sometimes the appearance of calm is actually a trap. People don't have to be raging extremists to let harm expand. Sometimes they're just tired, desperate for order after so much bullshit, and they're willing to accept the version of peace they are handed. Propaganda tells them that everything is fine, the economy looks better, and if you're not part of a targeted group, life can feel almost normal. That kind of normal is kind of seductive, but it's not real calm. It's the kind that lets cruelty grow quietly because people do not want to rock the boat. And that's why letting go without giving in matters. Because if you give in, you become part of the silence that lets harm expand. So, how do we stand without losing our minds? How do we resist without self-destructing? Well, for one, by remembering what Marcus also said in Book 4. I think it was section 49a. He wrote, "It's unfortunate that this has happened. No, it's fortunate that this has happened and I've remained unharmed by it, not shattered by the present or frightened of the future." In other words, the world doesn't get to decide whether you're broken. You do. The waves don't get the last word. You do. Now, Marcus wasn't writing this in some peaceful palace while he was sipping wine and petting puppies. He was emperor of Rome while wars, plagues, political betrayal, and uprisings were literally swirling around him. He had to sit down at the end of every day and figure out how not to lose his mind. And his answer wasn't control the storm. It was control your response. 2,000 years later, that still works. But here's the practical part, standing up doesn't always look like dramatic speeches or grand acts of defiance. Most of the time, it's in the small choices that protect your mind and your values. Where you spend your money, supporting local businesses or creators who actually care about their craft instead of feeding faceless corporations that profit while you struggle. How you spend your attention, subscriptions, social media feeds, news outlets. Do they inform and uplift you, or do they drain your energy? You need to guard your focus like it's the most valuable thing you own. Do not let algorithms rent space in your head for free. How you treat people, all people, not just the ones who agree with you or make life easy. Refusing to buy into the "if you're not with us, you're against us" trap. Quietly refusing the bait of division weakens the narrative that hate is the only way forward. This isn't passive. Boundaries are essential. Boundaries with people, with news, with work, with your habits. Boundaries are not weakness. They are strength. They protect the space where you can think, feel, and even laugh. Without them, you're not a rock. You are a sponge soaking up everybody else's mess until you collapse. Every wisdom tradition points to the same truth in different words. Stoicism reminds us we don't control events, only our responses. Buddhism teaches that attachment and ego create suffering, and letting go frees us. Taoism shows the flow. You can't force the river, but you can move with it without losing yourself. Peace does not come from wrestling with every wave. It comes from standing steady, intentional, while the waves crash past. Letting go without giving in does not mean ignoring harm or staying silent. There's a dangerous kind of silence. People telling themselves it's easier not to see, not to speak, not to risk rocking the boat. Silence often ends up being compliance, letting harm grow unchecked. So how do we avoid that trap without spiraling? Well, choose one place to stand firm. Support that small business over a giant one. Show kindness where allowing cruelty would be a lot easier. Speak up quietly for someone who needs it. Model critical thinking when conversations veer towards stupidity or blind outrage. Stick to it. You don't have to carry everything. 1,000 small acts of resistance build up over time. Giving in erodes your values little by little. You don't lose them all at once. You lose them through those tiny little compromises. Then one day you wake up and realize you are not the rock anymore. You are just another wave crashing, fueled by fear, anger, or exhaustion. That is not who you are. You know what a good person stands for. You know how a good person treats others. Don't give that up. And if humor helps you survive, embrace it. Laugh at the ridiculousness of people who want to control you. Humor keeps you human, keeps you grounded in the absurdity of life, which, let's be honest, is pretty absurd most days. So here is your midweek reminder. You do not have to carry it all. Let go of what you can't change and still hold firm to your values. Refuse to give in to fear or anger. Be the rock in the storm. Not perfect, not polished, just steady, human, decent. The waves are going to crash whether you like it or not, but you don't have to be swept away. You can stand, you can laugh, you can live with your head high and your boundaries intact. And when you do, you are showing everyone around you it's possible. Be the rock. Thanks for watching. As always, take care of you, and I will see you the next time. Bye-bye.